Auriel, how did you find carnivore?
So, carnivore was introduced to me by a good friend of mine. His name is John. He had been doing carnivore, and it was interesting to me. I've done quite a few diets before. Carnivore was not one of them. And I had just come back from Japan, and I was eating a ton of snacks while I was there. So when I came back, I said to myself, I really need to do something to get myself away from sugar because I know I have that addiction to it. And then, what am I gonna do? So carnivore actually was the perfect fit for me. I decided to do carnivore for 2 weeks. That was my promise to myself. Go strict carnivore for 2 weeks, and then at that point, you'll decide whether you wanna continue this or not. Carnivore, within the first 2 weeks, helped curve my need for sugar. So that was one of the first things that was important to me. And then the second thing, it gave me a ton of energy. Energy was through the roof. I was super active, couldn't stop, just moving around. Not like the caffeine if you over have caffeine, but just like a real good focus and energy and drive. With that, I turned my 3-day workout week into a 6-day workout week, which was a lot, but I felt great. So I continued with it. Now, my carnivore was carnivore with dairy. So I was consuming dairy along with meat and eggs and bacon, all that stuff, which was delicious. The things that I love most about carnivore is that I didn't really have to decide what I was going to eat for dinner. It was basically, beef and sour cream and cheese. And for my lunch was mainly 6 eggs with bacon and cheese. So, carnivore, that part of carnivore was really for me eye-opening that you could do something like this and feel so good for a long period of time. Taking yourself away from the sugar, getting yourself off of that diet of eating carbohydrates all the time and feeling run down. With carnivore, I never felt run down. There was actually a point where I figured I'd test myself out. I went to this burger spot near us, and I got a triple burger. So when I calculated the weight of it, it was over a pound of beef. And so I said, "All right, let me see if I could finish this thing." So I finished it, and afterwards I got up and I was fine. Now I know that if it was a burger, even if it was a single burger with bread, I would have felt run down and needed a break.
I feel pretty much the same, as soon as you introduce the bread into it or the sauces with sugar, and it's just like, yeah, you crash afterwards. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So you've been on before and you talked about the stuff that you were feeling better, the improvements you've had.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you've been and got some blood work done. Um,
Yes.
what's happened with that?
Sure. So so I went to get my blood work done, and I told the doctor, "I'm on carnivore. I'm expecting my cholesterol to be high." I didn't wanna shock him, but he ended up being shocked anyway. So these are the numbers. I wrote everything down. So my triglycerides was 106. Now I believe the guide is about 100. Then my HDL was 84. So what you really want to do is you want to take a look at those two things and divide them into each other. So we take 106 divided by 84, and my number comes to 1.26. Now the goal is to be under 2. If you are under 2, that's a very good sign. So I was very happy with those numbers. Now here comes where the screen was red. There was a box there with a big H in it, and so it's my LDL. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. And you should have seen the look of concern on his face. The LDL was 290. So here in America, the guideline for total cholesterol is 200. I was 290 in the LDL. Now, if you do your research, which I absolutely say you should be doing, you will find that doctors are now saying that LDL is not the bad cholesterol. It's just another type of cholesterol. So I knew that, but the doctor was really worked up about it. There was another thing that he wanted to talk to me about, and it was my testosterone levels. So when I was on here last, I believe my testosterone, I had it checked, it was 880. When I went and got my testosterone checked at the doctor's office, it was 1,062. So I had broken the 1,000 mark with my testosterone. Now, with testosterone, it's super important to understand, especially for males, because that's where I did most of my research. So for the women, you'll have to do some research on your own. But for males, what you want is a high free testosterone also. So along with those numbers, they gave me my free testosterone, which was 9.5. Now, just so you have an idea, the guideline is 8 is considered low, and then on the high end is considered about 25. So I was very close to the low range, but about double the amount of the average person with testosterone. So then I get all my information back. I look through everything. One of the things to look out for if you're doing carnivore is iron overload, where there's just a lot of iron in your blood, and that happens to some people. My iron, everything looked amazing, so I was very happy with my blood work, even with a 290 LDL. So the doctor, because my free testosterone and my testosterone were, within range, but due to the amount, he ordered a separate test, which is called SHBG. So that's sex hormone binding globulin, and this is super important. When I got my results back for a male, it should be at the high end about 50, and when I got my results back, I was at 99. So unfortunately, that was a cause of concern for me because I had noticed that I really wasn't sleeping too well, and this was like at like 3 months of carnivore. Um, and my sex drive was starting to decrease. Now, I said to myself, okay, I have to be realistic and I have to do something about this. I have felt great for a very long time, but I'm feeling a little bit less like me. And I'm only 43 years old, and my sex drive is super important to me. Um, so what am I going to do about it? And I started to really beat myself up. I gave myself a very hard time because I am a researcher. If I could choose what I would be doing, it would be a scientist, and I would be studying numbers and looking this stuff all day long because it is important to me. And this is one of the things that I missed. This diet is amazing for many people, especially older men, because the sex drive is not the most important thing, right? When you're older, living a long time is the best thing. So having my SHBG levels that high, it does show that it's actually super protective of your heart and can help you to live longer. So that's great in the long term. In the in the short term, having those numbers high can decrease the ability to put on muscle mass and also have an effect on your sex drive. So, for those reasons, I decided to give myself a break from not only carnivore, strict carnivore, but also from the gym. I took a whole week off from the gym. I was working out 6 days a week to 0 days. I wanted to take that time to do a lot of research and figure out, why is this happening to me? Is this the best thing for me? What am I going to do in the future? And so the conclusion I came to was that I needed to reduce the amount that I was working out because that has an increase on that SHBG levels. I needed to increase a small amount of carbohydrates in my diet because carbohydrates are shown to lower that level down. Now, again, at my age, to feel like me, to have that drive, this is something that I needed to do. And I'm not saying that I recommend this to all people, but if you feel like I feel, I want you to take these lessons that I'm sharing with you here and some of the information and just take it into consideration, because at the end of the day, feeling great is what we all want. And we want to live a long time too. So it's not the fast life. I want to feel as great as possible for the next year and then I'm no longer here. Um, but it's also, I don't want to feel low but live forever, right? It's about that balance. So this is what I found. If you have high levels of SHBG, there are some things that you can do. One of them is consuming carbohydrates. Carbohydrates will help bring that level down. Now, if you're a strict carnivore and you don't want to do that, I understand, because trust me, I didn't want to do it either. I was so dialed in with carnivore that I didn't want to do anything else. I felt great when I was up. I felt great every time I would eat something. I was had energy, I had clarity, and I remember eating carbohydrates and not feeling like that. So I was torn. I was stuck in between. So I said, let me see if there's any supplements that could be helpful. So I have two supplements here that I've been taking, and I can tell you they absolutely help. So, and this is for both men and women. So the first supplement is called boron. If you've done any research on carnivore, boron will probably come up. Now, the reason for boron is boron used to be rich in our soil. So everything that you're eating, your fruits and vegetables, had boron in them. Now it's been pretty much depleted. But when you do a carnivore diet, where are you getting boron from? You're not. And so that's one of the things that causes this level to go up. Now, what does boron do? Boron is amazing because boron helps strengthen your bones, strengthen your immune system. It helps with vitamin D. It helps with magnesium. So it's all these things that were in the soil for a reason. It's because we need it. Now, with the boron, what it does is, so you have the SHGB, right? And that is a hormone that attaches to testosterone. So basically, it kind of mates together. So the free testosterone that's in your body has been reduced because it's paired up with something. Now, taking boron attaches itself to SHGB, right? So that way, now you have more free testosterone, which is an excellent thing. And I can tell you, as soon as I started taking boron, I felt back to my original self, like almost immediately. And there's studies that show even within 6 hours, there's been a difference in people's blood and mood. All right. So that's the number one supplement I'm gonna say that everybody should be taking, whether you're doing carnivore or not. The second thing is called nettle leaf. Now, nettle leaf is a natural plant that you can find. And what it does is it actually helps reduce SHGB levels. So it helps bring them down. So the combination of the two, one will free up more of your testosterone, and the other one will reduce the amount of testosterone that's being binded up. So with those two things, I can tell you if you're doing carnivore and you're feeling a little low and you want to stay carnivore, which I definitely would suggest that if it feels good for you, you should be doing it, right? This is the important thing. I wasn't worried about my blood results. It wasn't until I got my levels back and I started to do some research on it and I started to kind of check off like, hey, that kind of seems like the road I'm going down. Let me research it. And what I found was that most people who are athletes, people who work out, this happens to all of them. Why? Because this is an additional stress that's on the body. And because you're stressing the body, your body produces this hormone to kind of calm you down. It's basically trying to slow you down. Imagine, you're running at 30 miles an hour, which would be extremely fast, right? But let's say you're running at actually, let's use more realistic numbers. Let's say you're running at 15 miles an hour, which is fast. That's a sprint. But then you're holding that for an hour. What would happen to your body? It would start to break down. So essentially what was happening for me is carnivore was giving me so much energy. My body said, hey, we need to slow this guy down because he's he's unstoppable at this point. I was so focused. I was driven. The gym was amazing, but all of those things were causing this hormone to increase, which was then causing an effect on my overall mood. So if you I know everybody here is doing carnivore, and everybody has a different reason why they're doing carnivore. I decided to do carnivore to step away from sugar. Now, I know that some of you have autoimmune diseases, some of you are overweight, you just want mental clarity. Carnivore is going to give you all those things. And I hope that people continue to do this diet because it is so beneficial. But I also want you to recognize the signs if you're not feeling like yourself. And how can we get back to feeling a bit better? How can we do that? Is it just a little bit of carbs for someone who's super athletic? Or is it taking some supplements? Or is it both? I decided to do both. And honestly, I've been very, very happy.
And since you started on the supplements and you've added the carbs back in, have you been back to do another blood test? Do you know what's happening, or is it just you can feel the difference?
Sure. So I haven't been back for another blood test just yet. I did get they had set up a follow-up with me, but unfortunately there was an issue with the way they billed me. So I need them to correct that first before I go back because the bill was enormous. It was extremely high. I gave them a call. I said, "Hey, listen, this is my first, visit of the year. It shouldn't be this high." And they apologized. They said, "We're really sorry. It wasn't built correctly, but I wanted to get at least the first bill in so I could pay that before I went back for the follow-up." But yes, I am planning on going back for a follow-up visit and seeing the physician. I'm sure he's gonna be happy because the numbers will have come down from what they were before, considering I am consuming some carbohydrates in my diet, but at the moment, I haven't been back yet.
And, just for context, like, how many carbs are you consuming? Like, are you eating bread rolls now with dinner, or is it just adding some vegetables in?
Yeah, so initially it was, just fruits and vegetables, but with that, I was still getting muscle cramps, and so I know sleep is super important. We need to sleep through the night, right? It's good for our hormones, it's good for everything. So with those things, I was still having that issue. So for dinner, there's a small portion of carbs. So it could be rice, it could be pasta, but it's a small portion.
I mean, it's good that you've found this balance, and I think what's really important is that, everyone's starting from a different place,
Yes.
and, everyone's circumstances are different. So carnivore is gonna help most people because it takes them away from a standard diet, right?
Yeah,
Um, but
absolutely.
the as I say, everyone's different. So, like, there's still gonna be an element of testing for people to find out, where their kinda happy medium is, right? Whether that is, what you've had to do with the diet and supplements, or whether that's, the number of times you eat in a day, or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've been through a few diets before. I can definitely say that carnivore I felt the best on. Um, Hands down. Just super good clarity, super energy. Again, a lot of very good things. And you're right, everybody's starting from a different point. So, it could be someone like myself, just like me, however, doesn't exercise and never ran into the issues that I ran into with carnivore. I know for a fact that working out 6 days a week was a huge part of my problem. So I have dialed it back because I needed to find more balance. And I knew this for a long time, but I just felt so good. I wanted to do something with the energy. I didn't want to show up at work every day high on life and just being nonstop. So what I did was I used a lot of that energy at the gym to help kind of slow me down. So that way when I was at work, I was a little more balanced. But with that being said, it unfortunately slowed me down in every aspect over the long haul from doing that. So I would suggest if you are new to carnivore or you've been doing it for a little while and you feel a little bit different, I did give you some ideas on supplements which I'm telling you will change your life. But you may want to look at your workout schedule and say, you know what, maybe I'm just doing too much. Maybe I need to dial it back a little bit because this is causing a stress on my body. And at the end of the day, it's not doing something good, like working out 6 days a week, I wasn't gaining any more muscle. I was just going to the gym to burn up this additional energy, that was the main purpose of going 6 days a week. It wasn't that, I could say to myself, well, on carnivore, it was, about 2.5 months to almost 3 months of being strict carnivore. And because I was working out 6 days a week, I was much stronger than I was before. I didn't have that. I just knew that I had a ton of energy and I wanted to put it somewhere.
Yeah. Um, Given the level of testosterone, I think it's probably a good thing that you were, using it up at the gym, because can you imagine with that much energy? I mean, testosterone makes hard work feel good, right?
It
Can
does,
you imagine
absolutely.
if you weren't using it up at the gym, you'd be going to work and saying, "Come on, losers, you
Yeah.
lazy losers, let's do some work."
Listen, you know what? That's not too far from the truth. Um, I First off, I could not stop talking about carnivore. I was talking to everybody about carnivore. You just talk and talk and talk because you feel so amazing. But the second thing is I started to see the big difference between my energy levels and everybody else's. And I was like, these people need to pick up the pace. Like, like we're all here and they're not moving as fast as I am. Um, so you're absolutely right. I did have to put the energy somewhere. Now, it was it was put in a place where I don't know if there was something else I could have done. Maybe just meditating would have been helpful. I really don't know, and that's why I'm at this place now where I still want to be carnivore strict, but I need the balance too. So I'm trying to figure it out, and I don't want anybody to watch this and say, well, he's flip flopping and stuff like that. You know what? That's okay if that's your opinion. But honestly, I'm just a guy who loves science and loves to feel great and wants to figure it out. Because what I want to do is I want to have all the angles. I want to be able to, when I talk to somebody about carnivore, give them all the pluses and give them all the minuses. I don't get sponsored by carnivore. I don't get paid to do carnivore, nothing like that. So when I'm doing this, it's really for the benefit of people that I know around me that are suffering, that, have illnesses and, have very high um, triglycerides and they're type 2 diabetic. These are the people that I want to help because I know that we can all find balance, we can all be happy, and in most cases, stepping away from carbohydrates is the answer to about 90% of most people's problems.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm glad you added that bit in there because, as the vegans always accuse me of, if you hadn't said that, Big Meat would have been really angry with me because, they're giving me so much money for these videos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
um, yeah, so look, it's good to hear that you've found what's working for you, and reality is that's what we all have to do. We've all got to find that balance, right? Um, so Oriel, how can people reach out to you? Do you have social media or any way of getting in contact?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the best way to reach out to me, if you decided to, would be on my Instagram page, and it's fasting.fit. So fasting.fit. And so I started that Instagram page with that username because I was skipping breakfast for a very long time, and so fasting is a great way to control the total amount of calories you're eating. Studies show that if you eat 2,000 calories and you split it up between 6 meals, or you split it up between one meal, it's roughly going to be about the same. So, for most of us who are looking to lose a little bit of weight or maintain the weight that we're at, skipping breakfast for me was the easiest thing to do. That way, I would have a good sized lunch, I would have my dinner, and I never felt like that bogged down feeling. Dave, I want to thank you for hosting these videos and talking to all these people. I've learned a lot from watching your videos, but also from watching other videos. I've seen you comment on them, which is pretty cool because I'm like, hey, I know that guy, and you made a comment on this video, and so I believe one of the last comments that I saw was something about to the effect of everybody needs to do what's best for them. And so I really appreciated that. It made me feel so much better to come and talk to you today about the carnivore diet and where I am and still trying to figure it out because I know you have a huge audience who is diehard carnivore. And then you have audience that is on the fence. Do I want to be carnivore? Do I not want to be carnivore? So all of these interviews are extremely helpful, but I felt at ease knowing that you in your heart want people to do what is going to be best for them. And so I initially was planning on not talking to you because I felt ashamed to be so carnivore driven and then now not. I kind of felt like lost. And it wasn't until I read that comment that you had that opened my eyes that, hey, this guy, he cares about us. And he cares more about us than he does carnivore. Like, yes, of course, he's sharing the word about carnivore and why it's so important that we do this. But at the end of the day, he cares about us. So I can't thank you enough for that because it brought me back here to share my story.
Well, thank you very much. So, Oriel, I'll share your Instagram below.
Sure.
Um, thank you so much for coming on and sharing an update with us. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. And just one quick last thing. I actually have a YouTube page where I've made tons of videos about life lessons and things that you can do to kind of feel better. There's some stuff about exercise. So that's another place that you can reach me. I'll just go ahead and comment at the bottom. And then if you click on my name, it'll take you to my YouTube page. And you can, if you like my energy and you want to hear more about my thoughts on things, you can feel free to watch some of my videos and like and share, that normal stuff. But yeah, that's another place that you can reach me.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dave. I really appreciate everything that you do.